Stonks! The last few days, some pretty strange things have been happening on the stock market. GameStop, the company that owns EB Games, they've suddenly skyrocketed in price, despite the fact that the business itself is kind of failing. The era of the brick and mortar video game store is kind of over, given that most distribution is now moving to online. Same reason why Blockbuster has all but disappeared. There's exactly one Blockbuster store left, and I don't expect GameStop is going to be much further along. But still, the skyrocketing price of the stock seems to suggest otherwise. So what's going on here? It should be noted that I am not much of an expert when it comes to stock markets and things like that. It all seems like arcane magic to me, so the basic principle of the stock market is that you buy low and then you sell high. Now, on the stock market, it's also possible to do what's called a short trade. So in a short trade, you borrow a stock from your broker. You borrow it at whatever price it is, and then you immediately sell that, getting all the money from it. But you will eventually have to pay that stock back. You'll have to give it back to whomever you borrowed it from. So you're hoping that the stock will actually drop in price so that you're able to buy it back again at a lower price than you sold it for. And so this is used oftentimes for hedge funds who are betting against a company that may be going bankrupt or losing money soon, as in like a brick and mortar retailer of video games, for example. So a little while ago, some people on the Reddit forum Wall Street Bets noticed that there was a lot of short options taken out against GameStop, among other companies. So what they decided to do was band together, get everyone in the same direction, and buy GameStop. So this causes the price to skyrocket. Went huge overnight. And in this last week, it has gone up by thousands of percent. So these hedge funds that have now shorted this stock are, well, they're broke. Because yes, they still have to give back the stocks that they borrowed and sold, but they're going to have to buy them back for much more than the money that they sold them for. And in fact, for a number of these hedge funds, at least one of them whose name I forget at this exact moment, they are owing now more than they actually have in terms of total net worth of that company. So they're broke. They've gone completely bankrupt. And now there's a push on the Wall Street Bets forum to just continue to hold this and basically screw over all of the hedge funds which are involved in this. Bailouts have already been issued to some of these funds. Basically, government has printed some money and thrown it at the problem to make it go away. But this really reveals some telling things about the stock market and how crazy it really is. The thing about the stock market is that it's basically just a casino for rich people. This is a realm in which you can bet money on a stock or a company that you think is going to do well, and if it does well, then you're going to make a lot more money. And of course, the people that have more money are better able to make money using this mechanism, because somebody that doesn't have any money at all, i.e. somebody who has to spend all their money on just living, isn't going to be able to play this game. So it's already predisposed to benefiting the people that have a bunch of money, because then you can use that money to make a whole bunch more money. This makes it very much set up for the rich people to benefit. And so there's this company called Robinhood that launched a few years ago to be able to allow for less wealthy people to do retail trades, so just trades with the general public. But then when this started happening, when all of a sudden all these retail investors started making all this money, well, they disallowed the buying of GameStop stock, as well as a couple of other stocks that are subject to this weird phenomenon. The rich people could still buy those stocks. There's no problem with that. And you could still sell those stocks at whatever price. And in fact, at one point, for a brief moment, Robinhood was actually forcing their clients to sell that stock for their own good, basically. This clearly shows that the whole system is rigged. And so there's been this cross-partisan support for the idea that this needs to be investigated, this needs to be looked into. But the problem is that just this one allegedly criminal action, this corruption, this is not a singular event. This is systemic. This is the entire damn system being screwed up. Because this sort of manipulation happens actually all the time on the market. The 2008 financial crisis was in large part caused due to these shorting of stocks. And this is usually the domain of rich people. Like, rich people are doing this constantly, manipulating the markets by dumping a bunch of money in here, taking a bunch of money out there. And this causes huge fluctuations in the market, which causes regular people just to be brought along for the ride. And the stock market is incredibly detached from everyday life. When the stock market goes up, nothing really changes for the average person. But when the stock market tanks, we all lose our jobs. We all go broke. People who have like regular investments just lose the entire nest egg, their entire retirement savings sometimes. And yet oftentimes, when measuring the health of the economy, when measuring how well the nation is doing or the world is doing, it's often measured in terms of stock market growth, GDP growth, in terms of basically just imaginary numbers continuing to go up. And if that imaginary number, the squiggly line, go up, well, things are going just great. Never mind the increasing rate of income inequality, never mind the rates of poverty, never mind the amount of medical-related bankruptcy in the United States, never mind all those other sorts of things, never mind the collapse of the environment. As long as those stocks are going up, well, that's a good thing. This is one of the core problems with money being an arbitrary measure of value. There's no actual concrete, functional value to money. It doesn't actually represent anything other than an abstract value. It's the closest thing that it does represent is an amount of abstract labor time, waged labor time, that you can use to pay someone to do an arbitrary task. This has some use, of course, but it also, since it is arbitrary, it disregards any and all other factors outside of exactly what it is measuring. All these other factors, such as the environment, such as the health of people, such as all those other sorts of things, they become externalities to the equation of economics. And since it's an externality, it becomes possible to make a lot of money doing not so great things. These hedge funds, they operate basically as vultures on the market. And indeed, they have intentionally or semi-intentionally bankrupted a number of organizations. There's been a rash of bankruptcies of retail chains over the last decade or so, causing lots of people to lose their jobs and also hollowing out the retail economy, the local retail economy of many towns. Thing is, it's oftentimes that these hedge funds will buy up and then sell off assets and borrow money against a company and basically bankrupt it and then reap all the profits from it because they benefit when this company goes under. Just by taking out all these loans and gaining all this interest, they get lots of money. And then, oops, sorry, the company's not financially viable. We better sell it off. We better go bankrupt. And they walk away with these huge bonuses, and meanwhile, a lot of people are out of work and out of a fortune, quite frankly. An event like this, which I'll call Gamestonk, really highlights the absurdity and the malice behind the system of stock trading. There are many different ways of going about investment, and we don't have to do it in this way of predatory free market economies. It could be done as like a social investment fund. It could be publicly managed, democratically managed, as a way of new businesses of gaining capital to be able to build their businesses. This is a sensible way to do it, but in the way that we have right now, it's all financial speculation, basically gambling on an open market that has no functional value to it. The fact that a bunch of semi-coordinated internet people are able to pull down some multi-billion-dollar hedge funds kind of shows you something, though. There's this power in groups of people working together towards the same end. Now, mind you, these people that are coordinating through this Reddit subforum, these are hardly like regular, average, everyday people. Some of them are, for sure, but the person that really got this ball rolling invested $50,000, and some other folks have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last few days. So it's not exactly David versus Goliath. It's more like some Davids and a couple of Goliaths versus a much bigger Goliath. But still, the point holds that if you get a bunch of people together, even regular, average, everyday people, and you give them a goal, and everyone believes in that goal and works in the same direction, you can accomplish great things. Much more than any one individual or any small group of individuals working alone. This is the principle behind a strike. By threatening to withhold labor, this threatens the owners of corporations to accede to your demands, whether it be higher wages or better working conditions or anything else like that. Now, if a single strike at a single corporation can have that sort of impact, imagine what a general strike might be able to accomplish. If all of us, the people who work for a living, were to simply withhold our labor, well, the people at the top, the people that make money off of our labor, won't be making any money. They'll be stuck. They'll be not making profit. We could basically demand whatever we wanted to. We could change the world. We could eliminate wage inequality. We could work towards a better environmental situation. We could basically collapse the system as it is. Now, mind you, we don't necessarily want to collapse the system because a lot of what we do depends on the system as it is. But perhaps what we could do is transition towards a better society. Transition towards a world that isn't run by these crazy magical markets and these wacky schemes of investor gamblers and things like that. We could work towards a world of practical wealth, where the value of a dollar actually represents something rather than nothing. Something where human happiness is the most important thing, and environmental sustainability, where we could live in a world where everybody is afforded an equal opportunity for life and happiness and a future that we can actually enjoy being in. Anyway, I do these videos daily, so if you enjoy my content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and like it and all those sorts of things. And I guess I'll see you tomorrow then.